When the blackout hits, everything shifts in an instant. Studies show the average U.S. city only has 3 days of food on shelves before chaos sets in, and during the Texas grid failure of 2021, over 4.5 million homes went dark while grocery supply chains collapsed within 48 hours. That's how fast normal turns into survival. And here's the part most people miss. Your everyday household items suddenly turn into lifelines. Not luxury gadgets, not fancy gear, but simple tools you already own. If you lend them out, odds are you'll never see them again. And when it's your turn to need them, you'll pay the price, maybe more than you can afford. Today, we're counting down the everyday items you'll regret lending before the blackout. Miss even one and you could end up powerless, hungry, or worse. 10. Rechargeable AA and AAAA batteries. Let's get brutally honest. Your rechargeable batteries will be worth more than stacks of cash when the blackout drags on. People underestimate them because they're small, but in survival, the tiniest tools decide whether you stay in control or spiral into desperation. Regular disposable batteries? They run out fast. But a rechargeable set paired with a solar charger means you've got an endless loop of power. Flashlights, radios, walkie-talkies, headlamps, night vision scopes, every one of these lifelines runs on simple AA or AAA cells. Now here's where it gets scary. When the blackout hits, everyone will drain their stash of disposables in the first week. After that, dead flashlights, silent radios, total blindness. Meanwhile, you'll still be powering up night after night. Lending them out isn't generosity, it's sabotage. The minute you let your neighbor borrow two just for tonight, kiss them goodbye. Those cells become the heartbeat of their family's survival, and you better believe they won't hand them back. Data backs this up. During Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, battery demand spiked so severely that supplies vanished in 48 hours, leaving hospitals rationing light and communication gear. Imagine that level of desperation multiplied across millions. Rechargeables don't just give you independence, they give you leverage. You can run low-energy devices endlessly, barter power storage for food, or even rent out charging time. But once the batteries themselves walk out your door, you've lost the edge. Keep them in your stash, rotate them carefully, and protect them like currency. Because that's exactly what they are in a grid-down world. Pocket-sized gold. 9. Manual grain mill. Here's one most people overlook completely, the manual grain mill. In everyday life, it looks like some antique relic your grandmother used. But when grocery shelves are stripped bare and flour bags disappear, this relic is what lets you keep eating. Rice, corn, wheat, oats, raw grains last for decades if stored properly. But here's the truth. They're useless if you can't. Grind them. Without a mill, all those buckets of wheat berries in your basement are just bird feed. A manual grinder turns them into flour, grits, or meal, transforming stored staples into actual meals. Bread, porridge, tortillas. When Venezuela's economy collapsed, families who had grain but no mills literally bartered away precious bags of rice just to get someone else to process it. That's how valuable this tool becomes. Now let's talk reality. These things are built to last. Solid cast iron, steel gears, hand-cranked efficiency, no electricity needed. And here's why you never, ever lend it out. Once someone borrows your mill and realizes they can feed their family with it, you've just handed away their lifeline. You'll be lucky if you even see the handle again. And in terms of barter, this is king. With a working mill, you can trade not just the tool, but the product. Bags of fresh flour become as valuable as gold because you've got the means to produce it when nobody else can. Remember this, stockpiles of wheat mean nothing without the tool to grind them. The grain mill is the bridge between starvation and bread. Loan it out, and you've burned the bridge for yourself. Protect it with everything you've got. 8. Wool blankets. Forget fancy sleeping bags. Wool blankets are survival gold when the grid fails. Synthetic fabrics might be warm indoors, but once the heat's gone and damp cold creeps in, they fail. Wool, though? It insulates even when wet, it's naturally fire-resistant, and it can last decades with proper care. During the Great Ice Storm of 1998 in Canada, where millions lost power for weeks in sub-zero weather, survivors reported wool blankets as the #1 item they couldn't live without. They don't just keep you warm, they keep you alive. And unlike bulky sleeping bags, blankets can layer, wrap around water containers to prevent freezing or even serve as makeshift clothing in emergencies. Lending them out is a death sentence in disguise. Once your neighbor realizes their kids stop shivering under a wool blanket, they'll never return it. Period. And in barter, you could trade a single blanket for days' worth of food because warmth equals survival. Wool also has stealth value. No synthetic crinkle or reflective surfaces, meaning you can stay wrapped up quietly without broadcasting your supplies. Plus, wool is nearly indestructible compared to polyester. Moths and moisture are its only enemies, and with a little cedar or vacuum sealing, you can stockpile them for decades. You need to understand this. Hypothermia doesn't care how much food you have. Without warmth, your body burns calories faster than you can replace them. A wool blanket isn't comfort. It's security. If you lend one out before the blackout ends, you've basically chosen generosity over survival. And survival doesn't reward generosity. Guard them, hide them, and only trade if the return keeps your family alive longer than the blanket would. 7. Pressure canner. In the middle of a blackout, fresh food rots faster than you think. Freezers thaw within 24 hours, fridges within 6. Suddenly, all that meat, produce, and dairy you stored turns into a ticking clock of waste. That's where a pressure canner becomes the survivalist's secret weapon. Unlike simple water bath canning, pressure canning hits the high temperatures needed to safely preserve meats, beans, and low-acid foods. That means you can turn perishable chicken thighs into shelf-stable jars that last years. During World War II, home pressure canners were considered so essential that the U.S. government distributed them to communities to keep food supplies stable. That's how powerful they are. Now here's the mistake. Lend it out and you've just given away your ability to create years' worth of food security. The average household won't have one, and when they realize it's the difference between rotting food and long-term storage, you can bet they'll never hand it back. And let's not forget barter value. Canned meat and beans will be priceless. You could trade a single jar of home-canned beef stew for fuel, antibiotics, or ammo, because unlike raw meat, it won't kill the person who eats it. A canner also gives you control. You decide when to preserve, what to preserve, and how long it will last. That kind of independence is survival insurance. Lending it out? That's giving someone else control over your resources. Bottom line, a pressure canner is one of the most powerful food preservation tools you can own. In a blackout economy, it makes you a producer, not just a consumer. Don't hand that power away for anything. 6. Heavy-duty work gloves. Here's one most preppers forget until it's too late. Work gloves. Not cheap garden gloves, but real leather or Kevlar-lined heavy-duty gloves. Why? Because when the grid collapses, your hands become your most valuable survival tool, and the minute they're injured, you're done. Studies from FEMA show that after major disasters, hand injuries spike by over 300% because people are clearing debris, chopping wood, carrying hot cookware, or handling jagged metal without protection. A single deep cut or infection could sideline you for weeks. Gloves prevent that. They let you haul firewood, repair fences, hammer nails, and even defend yourself without shredding your skin. Now think about lending them out. Once someone else wears your gloves and realizes they can split firewood without bleeding, they'll decide they need them more than you. Don't expect them back. And gloves aren't just protection, they're efficiency. You can work longer, lift heavier, and carry hotter items without burning or blistering. In barter, gloves skyrocket in value. Post-collapse scavengers, builders, even farmers will pay dearly to keep their hands intact. During the Great Depression, workers treated gloves like gold because they meant more hours of labor without crippling injury. In a blackout, that reality returns. Bottom line, your hands are your lifeline. Gloves are the armor that keeps them functional. Lose them, and you've lost your ability to work, defend, and survive. Keep spares if you can, but never, ever loan them out. In a world without hospitals or antibiotics, one splinter could kill you. Gloves prevent that, and that makes them worth more than most people realize. 5. Manual sewing kit with heavy-duty needles. Most people laugh when you talk about sewing in a survival context, but when the blackout hits and the stores are empty, torn clothing isn't just an inconvenience. It's exposure, infection, and wasted resources. A manual sewing kit stocked with heavy-duty needles, waxed thread, and fabric patches suddenly becomes a medical and survival kit rolled into one. Think about it. One ripped jacket sleeve in freezing weather and you're looking at hypothermia. One torn backpack strap during a bug out and you've just crippled your ability to carry supplies. In the field, a sewing kit doubles as medical gear. Those same curved needles used on canvas or leather can be sterilized and used for stitching wounds if there's no doctor around. This isn't theory. Military field manuals dating back to World War I list sewing kits as mandatory gear for soldiers for exactly this reason. Now, why should you never lend it out? Because once someone realizes they can repair a tarp, patch a tent, or stitch up their kid's coat, they'll hold on to it like their life depends on it. And it probably does. Replacement gear won't exist. Every stitch you make preserves clothing that could last another season, another year. And let's not forget barter power. A single repaired pair of boots could mean days of survival for someone else. That gives you leverage. Food, antibiotics, or ammunition in exchange for a few stitches. But trade only your skills, never your kit itself. Once it leaves your hands, you've lost your ability to repair your own gear. The bottom line is this: survival isn't always about big flashy tools. Sometimes it's about keeping the small essentials intact. A sewing kit ensures your clothing, your gear, and even your body stay functional. Hand it out, and you've just given away your safety net. 4. Large stockpot or Dutch oven. You might think your kitchen cookware is interchangeable, but in a blackout, one item becomes the backbone of your food security: the large stockpot or Dutch oven. Forget tiny pans and delicate cookware. A real heavy-gauge stockpot lets you boil gallons of water for purification, cook bulk meals to feed your entire family, or even preserve food in jars if you're running a water bath canning setup. During the Great Depression, community soup kitchens didn't run without massive pots. That's because big vessels multiply resources. They stretch food, keep more people alive, and conserve fuel by cooking in bulk. Now, here's the danger. Lend that pot out once and you'll never see it again. Once another family realizes they can boil down a chicken carcass into soup or sterilize enough water for their kids, they'll decide your pot is their lifeline. And the harsh truth is, they'll be right. Beyond cooking, a heavy Dutch oven works on open fires, wood stoves, even hot coals buried in the ground. Its thick walls retain heat for hours, saving precious firewood. You can bake bread, stew meat, even melt snow in winter. It also doubles as barter leverage. People without large cookware will trade food or fuel just to borrow cooking capacity. But again, loaning is giving. You'll never get it back. And think about security. In a world with no hospitals, malnutrition weakens the immune system fast. A stockpot lets you produce calorie-dense stews and broths that prevent starvation. One pot of beans and rice can feed a family for days. Lose that, and you lose efficiency, fuel economy, and health. Bottom line, guard your big pot. It's not just cookware, it's civilization in a blackout world. 3. High-quality water storage containers. Water itself is life, but here's the truth no one talks about. Without a way to store it safely, your access is worthless. Enter the high-quality water storage container. I'm not talking about cheap milk jugs that split open or leach chemicals. I'm talking about BPA-free, food-grade barrels, jerry cans, and stackable cubes designed to hold gallons for months without contamination. During disasters like Hurricane Harvey, countless families had access to water but no way to store it, leading to immediate shortages and dangerous exposure to bacteria. These containers turn temporary abundance, rainfall, stream collection, even municipal handouts into long-term survival. And when the blackout hits, Every drop you collect becomes more valuable than gold. Now imagine lending out just one container. Your neighbor fills it, realizes their family finally has safe storage, and decides keeping it is more important than returning it. And guess what? They're right. Because once you've lost that container, you've lost the ability to bank survival. Without storage, you'll waste time hauling small bottles back and forth, spilling precious drops, and risking contamination. With it, you're secure, days, even weeks ahead of everyone else. And let's talk barter. A full container of potable water is worth more than a bag of food in most collapse economies. Families can go 3 weeks without food, but only 3 days without water. Your containers make you a supplier, but they also make you a target if you're careless. Hide them, rotate them, disinfect them, and never ever let one leave your control. Because once it's out of your hands, it's out of your survival plan. Bottom line, water without storage is opportunity wasted. With containers, you're not just surviving, you're stockpiling time itself. 2. Quality hand tools, hammers, axes, and wrenches. Here's a cold fact. Once the grid collapses, every repair falls on you, and without quality hand tools, you're helpless. Your power drill? Dead weight once the batteries drain. Your electric saw? A useless hunk of metal. But a sharp axe, a solid hammer, a set of wrenches and screwdrivers, those become civilization builders. With them, you can split wood for heat, repair fencing, dismantle scrap for parts, or reinforce doors against desperate intruders. Think of history. When the Soviet Union collapsed in the 1990s, hand tools skyrocketed in black market value because factories shut down and replacements vanished. Neighbors who had hammers and axes could barter their labor for food and medicine, while those without sat powerless. And here's the brutal truth. Lend one out, and it's gone forever. If someone fixes their leaking roof with your hammer or chops enough wood to heat their cabin with your axe, do you really think they'll return it? Survival rewrites morality. Tools don't just make work easier, they make survival possible. Without them, you can't build, repair, or defend. And let's not ignore injury risk. Swinging an unsharpened or poorly made axe is an invitation to disaster. High-quality, well-maintained tools aren't just safer, they last decades. That's why they're non-negotiable in your kit. And barter? Off the charts. In a world without Lowe's or Home Depot, a single functional wrench could be traded for a sack of rice or an axe for ammunition. But trading should be the last resort, because once that tool leaves your hand, so does the ability to repair your future. Bottom line, tools are the skeleton of survival. They build your shelter, protect your supplies, and keep your family warm. If you lend them, you've given away the backbone of your survival plan. 1. Portable power bank with solar charging. At the very top of this list, we land on something most people dismiss as a nice-to-have, when in reality it's one of the most powerful survival tools you can own, a high-capacity portable power bank, ideally with solar recharging capability. Think about what it means when the grid goes down. Communication vanishes, GPS dies, radios, flashlights, medical devices, all starved for power. A power bank is a silent lifeline, storing precious electricity like a reservoir in your pocket. Unlike generators, it doesn't draw attention with noise or fumes. Unlike fuel supplies, it doesn't run out. If you've got a solar charger attached, you've created a renewable energy loop, endless electricity as long as the sun rises. During the Texas blackout of 2021, demand for power banks spiked over 400% online, and many sold out within hours. Why? Because people realized too late that staying connected meant staying alive. Now here's why you never ever lend one out. Once someone plugs in their phone, their flashlight, or worse, a child's breathing machine, they will decide that bank belongs to them. And who can blame them? In their mind, it's not a gadget anymore. It's life support. And in collapse, nobody gives life support back. Beyond personal use, power banks are barter kings. One full charge could be traded for food, antibiotics, or intel because people crave communication and light above nearly everything else. But let's be blunt. If you trade it away, you're trading away your edge. Information is power, and the ability to keep your devices running gives you an edge no one else has. The bottom line, portable power banks aren't just about convenience, they're about independence. They let you stay connected, keep lights running, and hold on to the one thing everyone else loses: control. Guard them, hide them, and never lend them out. Because in a blackout, electricity isn't a luxury, it's survival itself. When the lights go out, survival doesn't belong to the strongest or even the smartest. It belongs to the prepared. History proves it. During Hurricane Sandy, nearly 44% of New Yorkers were left without drinking water within 3 days. In Venezuela's collapse, families literally traded their heirlooms for sacks of flour. And in every crisis, the ones who held on to their essentials, their tools, their food, their light, were the ones who made it through. Here's the question you need to ask yourself right now. Are you guarding your lifelines, or are you leaving them vulnerable to the first person who knocks on your door? Because generosity feels noble, but in a blackout, it can become fatal. Once an item leaves your hands, it rarely comes back. And when the desperation spreads, no one is looking out for you except you. So think hard. The blackout will hit, whether it's tomorrow, next month, or next year. And when it does, the difference between control and chaos comes down to the everyday items you protect. Hold on to them. Guard them. Because survival doesn't reward those who share freely. It rewards those who endure.